Sonnet number 1 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The partial muse has from my earliest hours smiled on the rugged path I'm doomed to tread, and still with sportive hand has snatched wild flowers to weave fantastic garlands for my head. But far, far happier is the lot of those who never learned her dear delusive art, which, while it decks the head with many a rose, reserves the thorn to fester in the heart. For still she bids soft pity's melting eye stream o'er the ills she knows not to remove, points every pang and deepens every sigh of mourning friendship or unhappy love. Ah, then, how dear the Muse's favours cost, if those paint sorrow best who feel it most. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 2, written at the close of spring by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. The garlands fade that spring so lately wove, each simple flower, which she had nursed in dew, anemones that spangled every grove, the primrose one, and harebell mildly blue. No more shall violets linger in the dell, or purple orchis variegate the plain, till spring again shall call forth every bell, and dress with humid hands her wreaths again. Ah, poor humanity! So frail, so fair are the fond visions of thy early day, till tyrant passion and corrosive care bid all thy fairy colours fade away. Another May new buds and flowers shall bring. Ah, why has happiness no second spring? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 3, To a Nightingale by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Poor melancholy bird, that all night long tell'st to the moon thy tale of tender woe, from what sad cause can such sweet sorrow flow, and whence this morning melody of song? Thy poet's musing fancy would translate what mean the sounds that swell thy little breast, when still at dewy eve thou leav'st thy nest, thus to the listening night to sing thy fate. Pale sorrow's victims wert thou once among, though now released in woodlands wild to rove. Say, hast thou felt from friends some cruel wrong, or diedst thou, martyr of disastrous love? Ah, songstress sad, that such my lot might be, to sigh and sing at liberty like thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 4, To the Moon by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Queen of the silver bow, by thy pale beam, alone and pensive, I delight to stray, and watch thy shadow trembling in the stream, or mark the floating clouds that cross thy way. And while I gaze, thy mild and placid light sheds a soft calm upon my troubled breast, and oft I think, fair planet of the night, that in thy orb the wretched may have rest. The sufferers of the earth perhaps may go, released by death, to thy benignant sphere, and the sad children of despair and woe forget in thee their cup of sorrow here. Oh, that I soon may reach thy world serene, poor wearied pilgrim in this toiling scene. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 5, To the South Downs, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Ah, hills beloved, where once a happy child, your beechen shades, your turf, your flowers among, I wove your bluebells into garlands wild, and woke your echoes with my artless song. Ah, hills beloved, your turf, your flowers remain, but can they peace to this sad breast restore? For one poor moment soothe the sense of pain, and teach a breaking heart to throb no more. And you, Aruna, in the vale below, as to the sea your limpid waves you bear, can you one kind Lethean cup bestow, to drink a long oblivion to my care? Ah, no, when all e'en hope's last ray is gone, there's no oblivion but in death alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 6, To Hope, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. O Hope, thou soother sweet of human woes, how shall I lure thee to my haunts forlorn? For me wilt thou renew the withered rose, and clear my painful path of pointed thorn? Ah, come, sweet nymph, in smiles and softness dressed, like the young hours that lead the tender year. Enchantress, come, and charm my cares to rest. Alas, the flatterer flies and will not hear. A prey to fear, anxiety, and pain, must I a sad existence still deplore? Lo, the flowers fade, but all the thorns remain. For me the vernal garland blooms no more. Come then, pale misery's love, be thou my cure, and I will bless thee, who though slow art sure. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 7, On the Departure of the Nightingale, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sweet poet of the woods, a long adieu. Farewell, soft minstrel of the early year. Ah, 'twill be long ere thou shalt sing anew, and pour thy music on the night's dull ear. Whether on spring thy wandering flights await, or whether silent in our groves you dwell, the pensive muse shall own thee for her mate, and still protect the song she loves so well. With cautious step the lovelorn youth shall glide through the lone brake that shades thy mossy nest, and shepherd girls from eyes profane shall hide the gentle bird who sings of pity best. For still thy voice shall soft affections move, and still be dear to sorrow and to love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 8, To Spring, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Again the wood and long withdrawing vale in many a tint of tender green are dressed, where the young leaves, unfolding, scarce conceal beneath the early shade the half-formed nest of finch or woodlark, and the primrose pale and lavish cowslip, wildly scattered round, give their sweet spirits to the sighing gale. Ah, season of delight! Could aught be found to soothe awhile the tortured bosom's pain, of sorrow's rankling shaft to cure the wound, and bring life's first illusions once again, 'twas surely met in thee. Thy prospect fair, thy sounds of harmony, thy balmy air, have power to cure all sadness, but despair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 9 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Blessed is yon shepherd on the turf reclined, who on the varied clouds which float above lies idly gazing, while his vacant mind pours out some tale antique of rural love. Ah, he has never felt the pangs that move the indignant spirit, when with selfish pride friends, on whose faith the trusting heart relied, unkindly shun the imploring eye of woe. The ills they ought to soothe, with taunts deride, and laugh at tears themselves have forced to flow. Nor his rude bosom those fine feelings melt, children of sentiment and knowledge born, through whom each shaft with cruel force is felt, empoisoned by deceit, or barbed with scorn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 10 to Mrs. G. by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Ah, why will memory with officious care the long-lost visions of my days renew? Why paint the vernal landscape green and fair, when life's gay dawn was opening to my view? Ah, wherefore bring those moments of delight, when with my Anna on the southern shore I thought the future as the present bright? Ye dear delusions, ye return no more. Alas, how different does the truth appear from the warm picture youth's rash hand portrays! How fades the scene as we approach it near, and pain and sorrow strike how many ways! Yet of that tender heart, ah, still retain a share for me, and I will not complain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 11, To Sleep, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Come, balmy sleep, tired nature's soft resort, on these sad temples all thy poppies shed, and bid gay dreams from Morpheus' airy court float in light vision round my aching head. Secure of all thy blessings' partial power, on his hard bed the peasant throws him down, and the poor sea-boy in the rudest hour enjoys thee more than he who wears a crown. Clasped in her faithful shepherd's guardian arms, well may the village girl's sweet slumbers prove. And they, O gentle sleep, still taste thy charms, who wake to labour, liberty, and love. But still thy opiate aid dost thou deny, to calm the anxious breast, to close the streaming eye. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 12, written on the seashore, October 1784, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. On some rude fragment of the rocky shore, where on the fractured cliff the billows break, musing, my solitary seat I take, and listen to the deep and solemn roar. O'er the dark waves the wind's tempestuous howl, the screaming sea-bird quits the troubled sea. But the wild gloomy scene has charms for me, and suits the mournful temper of my soul. Already shipwrecked by the storms of fate, like the poor mariner methinks I stand, cast on a rock, who sees the distant land from whence no succour comes, or comes too late. Faint and more faint are heard his feeble cries, till in the rising tide the exhausted sufferer dies. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 13 from Petrarch by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Oh, place me where the burning moon forbids the withered flower to blow, or place me in the frigid zone on mountains of eternal snow. Let me pursue the steps of fame, or poverty's more tranquil road. Let youth's warm tide my veins inflame, or 60 winters chill my blood. Though my fond soul to heaven were flown, or though on earth 'tis doomed to pine, prisoner or free, obscure or known, my heart, O Laura, still is thine. Whate'er my destiny may be, that faithful heart still burns for thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 14 from Petrarch by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Loose to the wind her golden tresses streamed, forming bright waves with amorous zephyrs' sighs, and though averted now, her charming eyes then with warm love and melting pity beamed. Was I deceived? Ah, surely, nymph divine, that fine suffusion on thy cheek was love. What wonder then those beauteous tints should move, should fire this heart, this tender heart of mine? Thy soft melodious voice, thy air, thy shape, were of a goddess, not a mortal maid. Yet though thy charms, thy heavenly charms, should fade, my heart, my tender heart, could not escape, nor cure for me in time, nor change be found. The shaft extracted does not cure the wound. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 15 from Petrarch by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Where the green leaves exclude the summer beam, and softly bend as balmy breezes blow, and where with liquid lapse the lucid stream across the fretted rock is heard to flow, pensive I lay, when she whom earth conceals, as if still living, to my eyes appears, and pitying heaven her angel form reveals, to say, Unhappy Petrarch, dry your tears. Ah, why, sad lover, thus before your time, in grief and sadness should your life decay, and like a blighted flower your manly prime in vain and hopeless sorrow fade away? Ah, yield not thus to culpable despair, but raise thine eyes to heaven, and think I wait thee there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 16 from Petrarch by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Ye vales and woods, fair scenes of happier hours, ye feathered people, tenants of the grove, and you, bright stream, befringed with shrubs and flowers, behold my grief, ye witnesses of love. For ye beheld my infant passion rise, and saw through years unchanged my faithful flame. Now cold in dust the beauteous object lies, and you, ye conscious scenes, are still the same. While busy memory still delights to dwell on all the charms these bitter tears deplore, and with a trembling hand describes too well the angel form I shall behold no more. To heaven she's fled, and nought to me remains but the pale ashes which her urn contains. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 17 from the 13th cantata of Metastasio, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. On thy grey bark, in witness of my flame, I carve Miranda's cipher, beauteous tree. Graced with the lovely letters of her name, henceforth be sacred to my love and me. Though the tall elm, the oak, and darker pine, with broader arms may noon's fierce ardours break, to shelter me and her I love be thine, and thine to see her smile and hear her speak. No bird ill-omened round thy graceful head shall clamour harsh or wave his heavy wing, but fern and flowers arise beneath thy shade, where the wild bees their lullabies shall sing, and in thy boughs the murmuring ring-dove rest, and there the nightingale shall build her nest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 18, to the Earl of Egremont, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Wyndham, 'tis not thy blood, though pure it runs through a long line of glorious ancestry, Percys and Seymours, Britain's boasted sons, who trust the honours of their race to thee. 'Tis not thy splendid domes, where science loves to touch the canvas and the bust to raise. Thy rich domains, fair fields, and spreading groves, 'tis not all these the Muse delights to praise. In birth and wealth and honours great thou art, but nobler in thy independent mind, and in that liberal hand and feeling heart given thee by Heaven, a blessing to mankind. Unworthy oft may titled fortune be, a soul like thine is true nobility. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 19, to Mr. Hayley, on receiving some elegant lines from him, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. For me the Muse a simple band designed, of idle flowers that bloom the woods among, which with the cypress and the willow joined, a garland formed as artless as my song. And little dared I hope its transient hours so long would last, composed of buds so brief, till Hayley's hand among the vagrant flowers threw from his verdant crown a deathless leaf. For high in fame's bright fane has judgment placed the laurel wreath Serena's poet won, which, woven with myrtles by the hands of taste, the Muse decreed for this her favourite son. And those immortal leaves his temples shade, whose fair eternal verdure shall not fade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 20, to the Countess of A, written on the anniversary of her marriage, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. On this blessed day may no dark cloud or shower with envious shade the sun's bright influence hide, but all his rays illume the favoured hour that saw thee, Mary, Henry's lovely bride. With years revolving may it still arise, blessed with each good approving heaven can send, and still with ray serene shall those blue eyes enchant the husband and attach the friend. For you fair friendship's amaranth shall blow, and love's own thornless roses bind your brow, and when, long hence, to happier worlds you go, your beauteous race shall be what you are now, and future Nevilles through long ages shine with hearts as good and forms as fair as thine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 21, supposed to be written by Werther, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Go, cruel tyrant of the human breast, to other hearts thy burning arrows bear. Go where fond hope and fair illusion rest. Ah, why should love inhabit with despair? Like the poor maniac I linger here, still haunt the scene where all my treasure lies, still seek for flowers where only thorns appear, and drink delicious poison from her eyes. Towards the deep gulf that opens on my sight I hurry forward, passion's helpless slave, and scorning reason's mild and sober light, pursue the path that leads me to the grave. So round the flame the giddy insect flies, and courts the fatal fire by which it dies. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 22, supposed to be written by Werther, to Solitude, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. O Solitude, to thy sequestered vale I come to hide my sorrow and my tears, and to thy echoes tell the mournful tale which scarce I trust to pitying friendship's ears. Amidst thy wild woods and untrodden glades no sounds but those of melancholy move, and the low winds that die among thy shades seem like soft pity's sighs for hopeless love. And sure some story of despair and pain in yon deep copse thy murmuring doves relate. And hark, methinks in that long plaintive strain thine own sweet songstress weeps my wayward fate. Ah, nymph, that fate assist me to endure, and bear awhile what death alone can cure. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 23, by the same, To the North Star, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. To thy bright beams I turn my swimming eyes, fair favourite planet, which in happier days saw my young hopes, ah, faithless hopes, arise, and on my passion shed propitious rays. Now nightly wandering mid the tempest drear, that howl the woods and rocky steeps among, I love to see thy sudden light appear through the swift clouds, driven by the wind along, or in the turbid water rude and dark, o'er whose wild stream the gust of winter raves. Thy trembling light with pleasure still I mark, gleam in faint radiance on the foaming waves. So o'er my soul short rays of reason fly, then fade, and leave me to despair and die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 24, supposed to be written by Werther, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Make there my tomb, beneath the lime tree's shade, where grass and flowers in wild luxuriance wave. Let no memorial mark where I am laid, or point to common eyes the lover's grave. But oft, at twilight morn or closing day, the faithful friend with faltering step shall glide, tributes of fond regret by stealth to pay, and sigh o'er the unhappy suicide. And sometimes, when the sun with parting rays gilds the long grass that hides my silent bed, the tear shall tremble in my Charlotte's eyes. Dear, precious drops, they shall embalm the dead. Yes, Charlotte o'er the mournful spot shall weep, where her poor Werter and his sorrows sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 25, by the same, just before his death, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by David Barnes. Why should I wish to hold in this low sphere a frail and feverish being? Wherefore try poorly from day to day to linger here against the powerful hand of destiny? By those who know the force of hopeless care on the worn heart, I sure shall be forgiven, if to elude dark guilt and dire despair I go uncalled to mercy and to heaven. O Thou, to save whose peace I now depart, will thy soft mind thy poor lost friend deplore, when worms shall feed on this devoted heart, where even thy image shall be found no more? Yet may thy pity mingle not with pain, for then thy hapless lover dies in vain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 26, To the River Arun, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. On thy wild banks, by frequent torrents worn, no glittering fanes or marble domes appear. Yet shall the mournful Muse thy course adorn, and still to her thy rustic waves be dear. For with the infant Otway lingering here, of early woes she bade her votary dream, while thy low murmurs soothed his pensive ear, and still the poet consecrates the stream. Beneath the oak and birch that fringe thy side, the first-born violets of the year shall spring, and in thy hazels, bending o'er the tide, the earliest nightingale delight to sing, while kindred spirits, pitying, shall relate thy Otway's sorrows, and lament his fate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 27, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by David Barnes. Sighing I see yon little troop at play, by sorrow yet untouched, unhurt by care, while free and sportive they enjoy to-day, content and careless of to-morrow's fare. O happy age, when hope's unclouded ray lights their green path and prompts their simple mirth, ere yet they feel the thorns that lurking lay to wound the wretched pilgrims of the earth, making them rue the hour that gave them birth, and threw them on a world so full of pain, where prosperous folly treads on patient worth, and to deaf pride misfortune pleads in vain. Ah, for their future fate how many fears oppress my heart, and fill mine eyes with tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 28, To Friendship, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. O thou, whose name too often is profaned, whose charms celestial few have hearts to feel, unknown to folly, and by pride disdained, to thy soft solace may my sorrows steal. Like the fair moon, thy mild and genuine ray through life's long evening shall unclouded last, while pleasure's frail attachments fleet away, as fades the rainbow from the northern blast. 'Tis thine, O nymph, with balmy hands to bind the wounds inflicted in misfortune's storm, and blunt severe affliction's sharpest dart. 'Tis thy pure spirit warms my Anna's mind, beams through the pensive softness of her form, and holds its altar on her spotless heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet number 29, to Miss C, on being desired to attempt writing a comedy, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by David Barnes. Wouldst thou then have me tempt the comic scene of gay Thalia, used so long to tread the gloomy paths of sorrow's cypress shade, and the lawn lay with sighs and tears to stain? Alas, how much unfit her sprightly vein, arduous to try, and seek the sunny mead and bowers of roses where she loves to lead the sportive subjects of her golden reign. Enough for me, if still, to soothe my days, her fair and pensive sister condescend, with tearful smile to bless my simple lays. Enough, if her soft notes she sometimes lend, to gain for me of feeling hearts the praise, and chiefly thine, my ever partial friend. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 30, to the River Arun, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Be the proud Thames of trade the busy mart, Arun, to thee will other praise belong, dear to the lover's and the mourner's heart, and ever sacred to the sons of song. Thy banks romantic, hopeless love shall seek, where o'er the rocks the mantling bindwith flaunts, and sorrow's drooping form and faded cheek choose on thy willowed shore her lonely haunts. Banks, which inspired thy Otway's plaintive strain, wilds, whose lorn echoes learned the deeper tone of Colin's powerful shell, yet once again another poet, Hayley, is thine own. Thy classic stream anew shall hear a lay, bright as its waves and various as its way. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 31, written on Farm Wood, South Downs, May 1784, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Spring's dewy hand on this fair summit weaves the downy grass with tufts of alpine flowers, and shades the beechen slopes with tender leaves, and leads the shepherd to his upland bowers strewn with wild thyme, while slow descending showers feed the green ear and nurse the future sheaves. Ah, blest the hind, whom no sad thought bereaves of the gay season's pleasures, all his hours to wholesome labour given, or thoughtless mirth. No pangs of sorrow past, or coming dread, bend his unconscious spirit down to earth, or chase calm slumbers from his careless head. Ah, what to me can those dear days restore, when scenes could charm that now I taste no more? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 32, to Melancholy, written on the banks of the Arun, October 1785, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. When latest autumn spreads her evening veil, and the grey mists from these dim waves arise. I love to listen to the hollow sighs through the half-leafless wood that breathes the gale. For at such hours the shadowy phantom, pale, oft seems to fleet before the poet's eyes. Strange sounds are heard, and mournful melodies, as of night wanderers who their woes bewail. Here, by his native stream, at such an hour, Pity's own Otway I methinks could meet, and hear his deep sighs swell the saddened wind. O melancholy, such thy magic power, that to the soul these dreams are often sweet, and soothe the pensive visionary mind. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 33, To the Naiad of the Arun, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Go, rural Naiad, wind thy stream along through woods and wilds, then seek the ocean caves where sea nymphs meet, their coral rocks among, to boast the various honours of their waves. 'Tis but a little o'er thy shallow tide that toiling trade her burdened vessel leads, but laurels grow luxuriant on thy side, and letters live along thy classic meads. Lo, where mid British bards thy natives shine! And now another poet helps to raise thy glory high, the poet of the mine, whose brilliant talents are his smallest praise, and who, to all that genius can impart, adds the cool head and the unblemished heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 34, To a Friend, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Charm'd by thy suffrage, yet shall I aspire, all inauspicious as my fate appears, by troubles darkened that increase with years, to guide the crayon, or to touch the lyre? Ah me! the sister Muses still require a spirit free from all intrusive fears, nor will they deign to wipe away the tears of vain regret that dim their sacred fire. But when thy envied sanction crowns my lays, a ray of pleasure lights my languid mind, for well I know the value of thy praise, and to how few the flattering meed can find, that thou, their highly favoured brows to bind, wilt weave green myrtle and unfading bays. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 35, To Fortitude, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Nymph of the rock, whose dauntless spirit braves the beating storm and bitter winds that howl round thy cold breast, and hear'st the bursting waves and the deep thunder with unshaken soul. O come, and show how vain the cares that press on my weak bosom, and how little worth is the false fleeting meteor, happiness, that still misleads the wanderers of the earth. Strengthened by thee, this heart shall cease to melt o'er ills that poor humanity must bear, nor friends estranged or ties dissolved be felt to leave regret and fruitless anguish there. And when at length it heaves its latest sigh, thou and mild hope shall teach me how to die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 36, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Should the lone wanderer, fainting on his way, rest for a moment of the sultry hours, and though his path through thorns and roughness lay, pluck the wild rose or woodbine's gadding flowers, weaving gay wreaths beneath some sheltering tree, the sense of sorrow he awhile may lose. So have I sought thy flowers, fair Poesy, so charm'd my way with friendship and the Muse. But darker now grows life's unhappy day, dark with new clouds of evil yet to come. Her pencil sickening fancy throws away, and weary hope reclines upon the tomb, and points my wishes to that tranquil shore, where the pale spectre, Care, pursues no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 37, sent to the Honourable Mrs. O'Neill, with painted flowers. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The poet's fancy takes from Flora's realm her buds and leaves to dress fictitious powers, with the green olive shades Minerva's helm, and give to Beauty's queen the queen of flowers. But what gay blossoms of luxuriant spring, with rose, mimosa, amaranth entwined, shall fabled sylphs and fairy people bring, as a just emblem of the lovely mind? In vain the mimic pencil tries to blend the glowing dyes that dress the flowery race, scented and coloured by a hand divine. Ah, not less vainly would the Muse pretend on her weak lyre to sing the native grace and native goodness of a soul like thine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 38, from the novel of Emmeline, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. When welcome slumber sets my spirit free, forth to fictitious happiness it flies, and where Elysian bowers of bliss arise, I seem, my Emmeline, to meet with thee. Ah, fancy then, dissolving human ties, gives me the wishes of my soul to see. Tears of fond pity filled thy softened eyes, in heavenly harmony our hearts agree. Alas! these joys are mine in dreams alone, when cruel reason abdicates her throne. Her harsh return condemns me to complain, through life unpitied, unrelieved, unknown. And as the dear delusions leave my brain, she bids the truth recur, with aggravated pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 39, to Night, from the novel of Emmeline, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. I love thee, mournful, sober-suited night, when the faint moon, yet lingering in her wane, and veiled in clouds, with pale uncertain light hangs o'er the waters of the restless main. In deep depression sunk, the enfeebled mind will to the deaf cold elements complain, and tell the embosomed grief, however vain, to sullen surges and the viewless wind. Though no repose on thy dark breast I find, I still enjoy thee, cheerless as thou art, for in thy quiet gloom the exhausted heart is calm, though wretched, hopeless yet resigned. While to the winds and waves its sorrows given may reach, though lost on earth, the ear of heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 40, from the novel of Emmeline, by Charlotte Turner Smith. (read_for_LibriVox.org) Far on the sands the low retiring tide in distant murmurs hardly seems to flow, and o'er the world of waters, blue and wide, the sighing summer wind forgets to blow. As sinks the day star in the rosy west, the silent wave with rich reflection glows. Alas! can tranquil nature give me rest, or scenes of beauty soothe me to repose? Can the soft lustre of the sleeping main, yon radiant heaven, or all creation's charms, erase the written troubles of the brain, which memory tortures, and which guilt alarms? Or bid a bosom transient quiet prove, that bleeds with vain remorse and unextinguished love? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 41, To Tranquillity, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. In this tumultuous sphere for thee unfit, how seldom art thou found, tranquillity! Unless 'tis when with mild and downcast eye by the low cradles thou delightest to sit of sleeping infants, watching the soft breath, and bidding the sweet slumberers easy lie; or sometimes hanging o'er the bed of death, where the poor languid sufferer hopes to die. O beauteous sister of the halcyon peace, I sure shall find thee in that heavenly scene, where care and anguish shall their power resign, where hope alike and vain regret shall cease, and memory, lost in happiness serene, repeat no more that misery has been mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 42, composed during a walk on the Downs, November 1787, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. The dark and pillowy cloud, the sallow trees, seem o'er the ruins of the year to mourn, and, cold and hollow, the inconstant breeze sobs through the falling leaves and withered fern. O'er the tall brow of yonder chalky bourne the evening shades their gathered darkness fling, while, by the lingering light, I scarce discern the shrieking nightjar sail on heavy wing. Ah! yet a little, and propitious spring, crowned with fresh flowers, shall wake the woodland strain. But no gay change revolving seasons bring, to call forth pleasure from the soul of pain. Bid Siren Hope resume her long lost part, and chase the vulture Care that feeds upon the heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 43, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The unhappy exile, whom his fates confine to the bleak coast of some unfriendly isle, cold, barren, desert, where no harvests smile, but thirst and hunger on the rocks repine; when from some promontory's fearful brow sun after sun he hopeless sees decline in the broad shipless sea, perhaps may know such heartless pain, such blank despair as mine. And if a flattering cloud appears to show the fancied semblance of a distant sail, then melts away, anew his spirits fail, while the lost hope but aggravates his woe. Ah, so for me delusive fancy toils, then from contrasted truth my feeble soul recoils. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 44, written in the churchyard at Middleton in Sussex, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Pressed by the moon, mute arbitress of tides, while the loud equinox its power combines, the sea no more its swelling surge confines, but o'er the shrinking land sublimely rides. The wild blast rising from the western cave drives the huge billows from their heaving bed, tears from their grassy tombs the village dead, and breaks the silent Sabbath of the grave. With shells and seaweed mingled, on the shore, lo, their bones whiten in the frequent wave. But vain to them the winds and waters rave, they hear the warring elements no more. While I am doom'd, by life's long storm oppressed, to gaze with envy on their gloomy rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 45, On Leaving a Part of Sussex, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Farewell, Aruna, on whose varied shore my early vows were paid to nature's shrine, when thoughtless joy and infant hope were mine, and whose lorn stream has heard me since deplore too many sorrows. Sighing I resign thy solitary beauties, and no more or on thy rocks or in thy woods recline, or on the heath, by moonlight lingering, pore on air-drawn phantoms, while in fancy's ear, as in the evening wind, thy murmurs swell. The enthusiast of the lyre, who wandered here, seems yet to strike his visionary shell of power to call forth pity's tenderest tear, or wake wild frenzy from her hideous cell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 46, written at Penhurst in autumn 1788, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Ye towers sublime, deserted now and drear, ye woods, deep sighing to the hollow blast, the musing wanderer loves to linger near, while history points to all your glories past, and startling from their haunts the timid deer, to trace the walks obscured by matted fern, which Waller's soothing lyre were wont to hear, but where now clamours the discordant hern. The spoiling hand of time may overturn these lofty battlements, and quite deface the fading canvas whence we love to learn Sidney's keen look, and Sacharissa's grace. But fame and beauty still defy decay, saved by the historic page, the poet's tender lay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 47, To Fancy, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Thee, queen of shadows, shall I still invoke, still love the scenes thy sportive pencil drew, when on mine eyes the early radiance broke, which showed the beauteous rather than the true? Alas! long since those glowing tints are dead, and now 'tis thine in darkest hues to dress the spot where pale experience hangs her head, or the sad grave of murdered happiness. Through thy false medium, then, no longer viewed, may fancied pain and fancied pleasure fly, and I, as from me all thy dreams depart, be to my wayward destiny subdued, nor suffer perfection with a poet's eye, nor suffer anguish with a poet's heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 48 to Mrs. by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. No more my wearied soul attempts to stray from sad reality and vain regret, nor courts enchanting fiction to allay sorrows that sense refuses to forget. For of calamity so long the prey, imagination has now lost her powers, nor will her fairy loom again essay to dress affliction in a robe of flowers. But if no more the bowers of fancy bloom, let one superior scene attract my view, where heaven's pure rays the sacred spot illume. Let thy loved hand with palm and amaranth strew the mournful path approaching to the tomb, while faith's consoling voice endears the friendly gloom. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 49, from the novel of Celestina, supposed to have been written in a churchyard over the grave of a young woman of 19. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. O thou, who sleep'st where hazel bands entwine the vernal grass with paler violets dressed, I would, sweet maid, thy humble bed were mine, and mine thy calm and enviable rest. For never more by human ills oppressed shall thy soft spirit fruitlessly repine. Thou canst not now thy fondest hopes resign, even in the hour that should have made thee blest. Light lies the turf upon thy virgin breast, and lingering here, to love and sorrow true, the youth who once thy simple heart possessed shall mingle tears with April's early dew, while still for him shall faithful memory save thy form and virtues from the silent grave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 50 by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. From the novel of Celestina. Farewell, ye lawns, by fond remembrance blest, as witnesses of gay unclouded hours, where, to maternal friendship's bosom pressed, my happy childhood passed among your bowers. Ye wood walks wild, where leaves and fairy flowers by spring's luxuriant hand are strewn anew, rocks, whence with shadowy grace rude nature lowers o'er glens and haunted streams, a long adieu. And you, O promised happiness, whose voice deluded fancy heard in every grove, bidding this tender, trusting heart rejoice in the bright prospect of unfailing love, though lost to me, still may thy smile serene bless the dear lord of this regretted scene. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 51, from the novel of Celestina, supposed to have been written in the Hebrides. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. On this lone island, whose unfruitful breast feeds but the summer shepherd's little flock with scanty herbage from the half-clothed rock, where ospreys, cormorants, and sea-mews rest. Even in a scene so desolate and rude, I could with thee for months and years be blest, and of thy tenderness and love possessed, find all my world in this wild solitude. When summer suns these northern seas illume, with thee admire the light's reflected charms, and when drear winter spreads his cheerless gloom, still find Elysium in thy sheltering arms. For thou to me canst sovereign bliss impart, thy mind my empire, and my throne thy heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 52, from the novel of Celestina, The Pilgrim, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Faltering and sad, the unhappy pilgrim roves, who, on the eve of bleak December's night, divided far from all he fondly loves, journeys alone, along the giddy height of these steep cliffs, and as the sun's last ray fades in the west, sees, from the rocky verge, dark tempests scowling o'er the shortened day, and hears, with ear appalled, the impetuous surge beneath him thunder. So, with heart oppressed, alone, reluctant, desolate, and slow, by friendship's cheering radiance now unblest, along life's rudest path I seem to go, nor see where yet the anxious heart may rest, that, trembling at the past, recoils from future woe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 53, from the novel of Celestina, The Laplander, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The shivering native, who by Tenglio's side beholds with fond regret the parting light sink far away beneath the darkening tide, and leave him to long months of dreary night, yet knows that springing from the eastern wave the sun's glad beams shall re-illume his way, and from the snows secured, within his cave he waits in patient hope returning day. Not so the sufferer feels who, o'er the waste of joyless life, is destined to deplore fond love forgotten, tender friendship past, which once extinguished can revive no more. O'er the blank void he looks with hopeless pain, for him those beams of heaven shall never shine again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 54, The Sleeping Woodman, written in April 1790 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Ye copses wild, where April bids arise the vernal grasses and the early flowers, my soul depressed from human converse flies to the lone shelter of your pathless bowers. Lo, where the woodman, with his toil oppressed, his careless head on bark and moss reclined, lulled by the song of birds, the murmuring wind, has sunk to calm, though momentary rest. Ah, would 'twere mine in spring's green lap to find such transient respite from the ills I bear! Would I could taste, like this unthinking hind, a sweet forgetfulness of human care, till the last sleep these weary eyes shall close, and death receive me to his long repose. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 55, Return of the Nightingale, written in May 1791, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Borne on the warm wing of the western gale, how tremulously low is heard to float, through the green budding thorns that fringe the vale, the early nightingale's prelusive note. 'Tis hope's instinctive power, that through the grove tells how benignant heaven revives the earth. 'Tis the soft voice of young and timid love, that calls these melting sounds of sweetness forth. With transport once, sweet bird, I hailed thy lay, and bade thee welcome to our shades again, to charm the wandering poet's pensive way, and soothe the solitary lover's pain. But now, such evils in my lot combine, as shut my languid sense to hope's dear voice and thine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 56. The Captive Escaped, in the Wilds of America, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Addressed to the Honourable Mrs. O'Neill. If, by his torturing, savage foes untraced, the breathless captive gain some trackless glade, yet hears the war-whoop howl along the waste, and dreads the reptile monsters of the shade, the giant reeds that murmur round the flood seem to conceal some hideous form beneath, and every hollow blast that shakes the wood speaks to his trembling heart of woe and death. With horror fraught and desolate dismay, on such a wanderer falls the starless night. But if, fast dreaming, a propitious ray leads to some amicable fort his sight, he hails the beam benign that guides his way, as I, my Harriet, bless thy friendship's cheering light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 57, To Dependence, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Dependence, heavy, heavy are thy chains, and happy are they who from the dangerous sea, or the dark mine, procure with ceaseless pains a hard-earned pittance, than who trust to thee. More blessed the hind, who from his bed of flock starts, when the birds of morn their summons give, and wakened by the lark, the shepherd's clock, lives but to labour, labouring but to live. More noble than the sycophant, whose art must heap with tawdry flowers thy hated shrine. I envy not the meed thou canst impart to crown his service, while though pride combine with fraud to crush me, my unfettered heart still to the mountain nymph may offer mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 58. The Glowworm, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. When on some balmy breathing night of spring, the happy child, to whom the world is new, pursues the evening moth of mealy wing, or from the heath bell beats the sparkling dew, he sees before his inexperienced eyes the brilliant glowworm like a meteor shine on the turf bank. Amazed and pleased he cries, "Star of the dewy grass, I make thee mine." Then, ere he sleep, collects the moistened flower, and bids soft leaves his glittering prize enfold, and dreams that fairy lamps illume his bower. Yet, with the morning, shudders to behold his lucid treasure rayless as the dust. So turn the world's bright joys to cold and blank disgust. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 59 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Written September 1791, during a remarkable thunderstorm, in which the moon was perfectly clear, while the tempest gathered in various directions near the earth. What awful pageants crowd the evening sky! The low horizon gathering vapours shroud, sudden, from many a deep embattled cloud, terrific thunders burst and lightnings fly, while in serenest azure, beaming high, Night's regent, of her calm pavilion proud, gilds the dark shadows that beneath her lie, unvexed by all their conflicts fierce and loud. So, in unsullied dignity elate, a spirit conscious of superior worth, in placid elevation firmly great, scorns the vain cares that give contention birth, and blessed with peace above the shocks of fate, smiles at the tumult of the troubled earth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode to Despair by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. From the novel of Emmeline. Thou spectre of terrific mien, lord of the hopeless heart and hollow eye, in whose fierce train each form is seen that drives sick reason to insanity, I woo thee with unusual prayer. Grim-visaged, comfortless despair, approach, in me a willing victim find, who seeks thine iron sway, and calls thee kind. Ah! hide for ever from my sight the faithless flatterer Hope, whose pencil, gay, portrays some vision of delight, then bids the fairy tablet fade away, while in dire contrast, to mine eyes, thy phantoms yet more hideous rise, and memory draws from pleasure's withered flower corrosives for the heart of fatal power. I bid the traitor Love adieu, who to this fond believing bosom came, a guest insidious and untrue, with pity's soothing voice, in friendship's name. The wounds he gave, nor time shall cure, nor reason teach me to endure. And to that breast mild patience pleads in vain, which feels the curse of meriting its pain. Yet not to me, tremendous power, thy worst of spirit-wounding pangs impart, with which, in dark conviction's hour, thou strik'st the guilty unrepentant heart. But of illusion long the sport, that dreary tranquil gloom I court, where my past errors I may still deplore, and dream of long-lost happiness no more. To thee I give this tortured breast, where hope arises but to foster pain. Ah! lull its agonies to rest. Ah! let me never be deceived again. But callous, in thy deep repose, behold in long array the woes of the dread future, calm and undismayed, till I may claim the hope that shall not fade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Elegy by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Dark gathering clouds involve the threatening skies, the sea heaves conscious of the impending gloom, deep hollow murmurs from the cliffs arise. They come, the spirits of the tempest come! Oh, may such terrors mark the approaching night as rained on that these streaming eyes deplore. Flash, ye red fires of heaven, with fatal light, and with conflicting winds, ye waters roar. Loud and more loud, ye foaming billows, burst, ye warring elements more fiercely rave, till the wide waves o'erwhelm the spot accurst, where ruthless avarice finds a quiet grave. Thus, with clasped hands, wild looks, and streaming hair, while shrieks of horror broke her trembling speech, a wretched maid, the victim of despair, surveyed the threatening storm and desert beach. Then to the tomb where now the father slept, whose rugged nature bade her sorrows flow, frantic she turned, and beat her breast and wept, invoking vengeance on the dust below. Lo, rising there above each humbler heap, yon cipher'd stones his name and wealth relate, who gave his son, remorseless, to the deep, while I, his living victim, curse my fate. O my lost love, no tomb is placed for thee, that may to strangers' eyes thy worth impart. Thou hast no grave but in the stormy sea, and no memorial but this breaking heart. Forth to the world, a widowed wanderer driven, I pour to winds and waves the unheeded tear, try with vain effort to submit to heaven, and fruitless call on him who cannot hear. Oh, might I fondly clasp him once again, while o'er my head the infuriate billows pour, forget in death this agonizing pain, and feel his father's cruelty no more. Part, raging waters, part, and show beneath in your dread caves his pale and mangled form. Now, while the demons of despair and death ride on the blast and urge the howling storm, lo, by the lightning's momentary blaze I see him rise, the whitening waves above, no longer such as when in happier days he gave the enchanted hours to me and love. Such as when daring the enchafed sea, and courting dangerous toil, he often said that every peril one soft smile from me, one sigh of speechless tenderness o'erpaid. But dead, disfigured, while between the roar of the loud waves his accents pierce mine ear, and seem to say, "Ah, wretch, delay no more, but come, unhappy mourner, meet me here." Yet, powerful fancy, bid the phantom stay, still let me hear him. 'Tis already past, along the waves his shadow glides away, I lose his voice amid the deafening blast. Ah, wild delusion, born of frantic pain, he hears not, comes not from his watery bed. My tears, my anguish, my despair are vain, the insatiate ocean gives not up its dead. 'Tis not his voice, hark, the deep thunders roll, upheaves the ground, the rock barriers fail. Approach, ye horrors that delight my soul, despair, and death, and desolation, hail! The ocean hears, the embodied waters come, rise o'er the land, and with resistless sweep tear from its base the proud aggressor's tomb, and bear the injured to eternal sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song, from the French of Cardinal Bernis, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. 1. Fruit of Aurora's tears, fair rose, on whose soft leaves fond zephyrs play, oh, Queen of flowers, thy buds disclose, and give thy fragrance to the day. Unveil thy transient charms, Ah no, a little be thy bloom delayed, since the same hour that bids thee blow shall see thee droop thy languid head. 2. But go, and on Themira's breast find, happy flower, thy throne and tomb, while, jealous of a fate so blest, how shall I envy thee thy doom? Should some rude hand approach thee there, guard the sweet shrine thou wilt adorn. Ah, punish those who rashly dare, and for my rivals keep thy thorn. 3. Love shall himself thy boughs compose, and bid thy wanton leaves divide. He'll show thee how, my lovely rose, to deck her bosom, not to hide, and thou shalt tell the cruel maid how frail are youth and beauty's charms, and teach her, ere her own shall fade, to give them to her lover's arms. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Origin of Flattery by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. When Jove, in anger to the sons of the earth, bid artful Vulcan give Pandora birth, and sent the fatal gift which spread below o'er all the wretched race contagious woe, unhappy man, by vice and folly tossed, found in the storms of life his quiet lost, while envy, avarice, and ambition hurled discord and death around the warring world. Then the blest peasant left his fields and fold, and bartered love and peace for power and gold, left his calm cottage and his native plain in search of wealth to tempt the faithless main, or braving danger in the battle stood, and bathed his savage hands in human blood. No longer then his woodland walks among the shepherd lad his genuine passion sung, or sought at early morn his soul's delight, or graved her name upon the bark at night. To deck her flowing hair no more he wove the simple wreath, or with ambitious love bound his own brow with myrtle or with bay, but broke his pipe or threw his crook away. The nymphs forsaken other pleasures sought, then first for gold their venal hearts were bought, and nature's blush to sickly art gave place, and affectation seized the seat of grace. No more simplicity by sense refined, or generous sentiment possessed the mind, no more they felt each other's joy and woe, and Cupid fled and hid his useless bow. But with deep grief propitious Venus pined to see the ills which threatened womankind, ills that she knew her empire would disarm, and rob her subjects of their sweetest charm, good humour's potent influence destroy, and change for lowering frowns the smile of joy. Then deeply sighing at the mournful view, she tried at length what heavenly art could do, to bring back pleasure to her pensive train, and vindicate the glories of her reign. 1,000 little loves attend the task, and bear from Mars' head his radiant casque. The fair enchantress on its silver bound weaved with soft spells her magic cestus round, then shaking from her hair ambrosial dew, infused fair hope and expectation new, and stifled wishes and persuasive sighs, and fond belief, and eloquence of eyes, and faltering accents which explain so well what studied speeches vainly try to tell, and more pathetic silence, which imparts infectious tenderness to feeling hearts, soft tones of pity, fascinating smiles, And Maya's son assisted with her wiles, and brought gay dreams, fantastic visions brought, and waved his wand o'er the seducing draught. Then Zephyr came, to him the goddess cried, "Go fetch from Flora all her flowery pride, to fill my charm, each scented bud that blows, and bind my myrtles with her thornless rose. Then speed thy flight to Gallia's smiling plain, where rolls the Loire, the Garonne, and the Seine. Dip in their waters thy celestial wing, and the soft dew to fill my chalice bring. But chiefly tell thy Flora that to me she send a bouquet of her fleur-de-lis. That poignant spirit will complete my spell." 'Tis done. The lovely sorceress says 'tis well. And now Apollo lends a ray of fire, the cauldron bubbles and the flames aspire, the watchful Graces round the circle dance, with arms entwined to mark the work's advance, and with full quiver sportive Cupid came, tempering his favourite arrows in the flame. Then Venus speaks, the wavering flames retire, and Zephyr's breath extinguishes the fire. At length the goddess in the helmet's round a sweet and subtle spirit duly found, more soft than oil, than ether more refined, of power to cure the woes of womankind, and called it Flattery. Balm of female life, it charms alike the widow, maid, and wife, clears the sad brow of virgins in despair, and smooths the cruel traces left by care, bids palsied age with youthful spirit glow, and hangs May's garlands on December's snow. Delicious essence, howsoe'er applied, by what rude nature is thy charm denied? Some form seducing still thy whisper hears, stern wisdom turns to thee her willing ears, and prudery listens and forgets her fears. The rustic nymph, whom rigid aunts restrain, condemned to dress and practise airs in vain, at thy first summons finds her bosom swell, and bids her crabbed gouvernants farewell, while, fired by thee with spirit not her own, she grows a toast, and rises into ton. The faded beauty, who with secret pain sees younger charms usurp her envied reign, by thee assisted can with smiles behold the record where her conquests are enrolled. And dwelling yet on scenes by memory nursed, when George the Second reigned, or George the First, she sees the scenes of ancient beaux arise, who swear her eyes exceeded modern eyes, when poets sung for her, and lovers bled, and giddy fashion followed as she led. Departed modes appear in long array, the flowers and flounces of her happier day. Again her locks the decent fillets bind, the waving lappet flutters in the wind, and then comparing with a proud disdain the more fantastic tastes that now obtain, she deems ungraceful, trifling, and absurd, the gayer world that moves round George the Third. Nor thy soft influence will the train refuse, who court in distant shades the modest muse, though in a dim form more pure and more refined, thy soothing spirit meets the lettered mind. Not death itself thine empire can destroy, towards thee even then we turn the languid eye, still trust in thee to bid our memory bloom, and scatter roses round the silent tomb. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Peasant of the Alps by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. From the novel of Celestina. Where cliffs arise by winter crowned, and through dark groves of pine around, down the deep chasms the snow-fed torrents foam, within some hollow, sheltered from the storms, the peasant of the Alps his cottage forms, and builds his humble, happy home. Unenvied is the rich domain that far beneath him on the plain waves its wild harvests and its olive groves. More dear to him his hut, with plantain thatched, where long his unambitious heart attached finds all he wishes, all he loves. There dwells the mistress of his heart, and Love, who teaches every art, has bid him dress the spot with fondest care. When borrowing from the vale its fertile soil, he climbs the precipice with patient toil, to plant her favourite flowerets there. With native shrubs, a hardy race, there the green myrtle finds a place, and roses there the dewy leaves decline, while from the crags abrupt and tangled steeps, with bloom and fruit the alpine berry peeps, and blushing mingles with the vine. His garden's simple produce stored, prepared for him by hands adored, is all the little luxury he knows. And by the same dear hands are softly spread the chamois velvet spoil that forms the bed, where in her arms he finds repose. But absent from the calm abode, dark thunder gathers round his road, wild raves the wind, the arrowy lightnings flash, returning quick the murmuring rocks among, his faint heart trembling as he winds along. Alarmed he listens to the crash of rifted ice. O man of woe! O'er his dear cot a mass of snow, by the storm severed from the cliff above, has fallen and buried in its marble breast all that for him, lost wretch, the world possessed, his home, his happiness, his love. Aghast the heart-struck mourner stands, glazed are his eyes, convulsed his hands. O'erwhelming anguish checks his labouring breath, crushed by despair's intolerable weight. Frantic, he seeks the mountain's giddiest height, and headlong seeks relief in death. A fate too similar is mine, but I, in lingering pain repine, and still my lost felicity deplore. Cold, cold to me is that dear breast become, where this poor heart had fondly fixed its home, and love and happiness are mine no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Does pity give, though fate denies, and to my wounds her balm impart? O speak, with those expressive eyes, let one low sigh escape thine heart. The gazing crowd shall never guess what anxious, watchful love can see, nor know what those soft looks express, nor dream that sign is meant for me. Ah, words are useless, words are vain, thy generous sympathy to prove, and well that sign those looks explain, that Clara mourns my hapless love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Addressed to Mrs. E. by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. In early youth's unclouded scene, the brilliant morning of 18, with health and sprightly joy elate, we gazed on life's enchanting spring, nor thought how quickly time would bring the mournful period, 38. Then the starch maid, or matron sage, already at the sober age, we viewed with mingled scorn and hate, in whose sharp words or sharper face, with thoughtless mirth we loved to trace the sad effects of 38. till saddening, sickening at the view, we learned to dread what time might do, and then preferred a prayer to fate to end our days ere that arrived. When, power and pleasure long survived, we met neglect and 38. But time, in spite of wishes, flies, and fate our simple prayer denies, and bids us death's own hour await. The auburn locks are mixed with grey, the transient roses fade away, but reason comes at 38. Her voice the anguish contradicts that dying vanity inflicts, her hand new pleasures can create. For us she opens to the view prospects less bright but far more true, and bids us smile at 38. No more shall scandal's breath destroy the social converse we enjoy, with bard or critic tête-à-tête. O'er youth's bright blooms her blights shall pour, but spare the improving friendly hour that science gives to 38. Stripped of their gaudy hues by truth, we view the glittering toys of youth, and blush to think how poor the bait for which to public scenes we ran, and scorned of sober sense the plan which gives content at 38. Though time's inexorable sway has torn the myrtle bands away, for other wreaths 'tis not too late. The amaranth's purple glow survives, and still Minerva's olive lives on the calm brow of 38. With eye more steady we engage to contemplate approaching age, and life more justly estimate, with firmer souls and stronger powers, with reason, faith, and friendship ours, we'll not regret the stealing hours that lead from 30 even to 48. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Verses intended to have been prefixed to the novel of Emmeline, but then suppressed. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. O'erwhelmed with sorrow, and sustaining long the proud man's contumely, the oppressor's wrong, languid despondency and vain regret, must my exhausted spirit struggle yet? Yes, robbed myself of all that fortune gave, even of all hope, but shelter in the grave, still shall the plaintive lyre essay its powers to dress the cave of care with fancy's flowers. Maternal love the fiend despair withstand, still animate the heart and guide the hand. May you, dear objects of my anxious care, escape the evils I was born to bear. Round my devoted head while tempests roll, yet there, where I have treasured up my soul, may the soft rays of dawning hope impart reviving patience to my fainting heart. And when its sharp solicitude shall cease, may I be conscious in the realms of peace, that every tear which swells my children's eyes from sorrows past, not present ills arise. Then with some friend who loves to share your pain, for 'tis my boast that some such friends remain, by filial grief and fond remembrance pressed, you'll seek the spot where all my sorrows rest. Recall my hapless days in sad review, the long calamities I bore for you, and with a happier fate resolve to prove how well you merited your mother's love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 60, To an Amiable Girl, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Miranda, mark where shrinking from the gale, its silken leaves yet moist with early dew, that fair faint flower, the lily of the vale, droops its meek head, and looks, methinks, like you. Wrapped in a shadowy veil of tender green, its snowy bells a soft perfume dispense, and bending as reluctant to be seen, in simple loveliness it soothes the sense. With bosom bared to meet the garish day, the glaring tulip, gaudy, undismayed, offends the eye of taste, that turns away to seek the lily in her fragrant shade. With such unconscious beauty, pensive, mild, Miranda charms, nature's soft, modest child. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 61 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sonnet 61, supposed to have been written in America. Ill-omened bird, whose cries portentous float o'er yon savannah with the mournful wind, while, as the Indian hears your piercing note, dark dread of future evils fills his mind. Wherefore with early lamentation break the dear delusive visions of repose? Why from so short felicity awake my wounded senses to substantial woes? O'er my sick soul thus roused from transient rest, pale superstition sheds her influence drear, and to my shuddering fancy would suggest thou com'st to speak of every woe I fear. Ah, reason little o'er the soul prevails, when from ideal ill the enfeebled spirit fails. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 62, written on passing by moonlight through a village while ground was covered with snow, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. While thus I wander, cheerless and unblest, and find in change of place but change of pain, in tranquil sleep the village labourers rest, and taste that quiet I pursue in vain. Hush'd is the hamlet now, and faintly gleam the dying embers from the casement low of the thatched cottage, while the moon's one beam lends a new lustre to the dazzling snow. O'er the cold waste, amid the freezing night, scarce heeding whither, desolate I stray. For me, pale eye of evening, thy soft light leads to no happy home, my weary way ends but in sad vicissitudes of care. I only fly from doubt to meet despair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 63, The Gossamer, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. O'er faded heath flowers spun, or thorny furze, the filmy gossamer is lightly spread, waving in every sighing air that stirs, as fairy fingers had entwined the thread. 1,000 trembling orbs of lucid dew spangle the texture of the fairy loom, as if soft sylphs, lamenting as they flew, had wept departed summer's transient bloom. But the wind rises, and the turf receives the glittering web. So, evanescent, fade bright views that youth with sanguine heart believes. So vanish schemes of bliss by fancy made, which, fragile as the fleeting dreams of morn, leave but the withered heath and barren thorn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 64, written at Bristol in the summer of 1794, by Charlotte Turner Smith, Samuel. Here from the restless bed of lingering pain the languid sufferer seeks the tepid wave, and feels returning health and hope again disperse the gathering shadows of the grave. And here romantic rocks that boldly swell, fringed with green woods or stained with veins of ore, called native genius forth, whose heaven-taught skill charmed the deep echoes of the rifted shore. But tepid waves, wild scenes, or summer air, restore they palsied fancy, woe-depressed? Check they the torpid influence of despair, or bid warm health reanimate the breast, where hope's soft visions have no longer part, and whose sad inmate is a broken heart? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 65 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sonnet 65 to Dr. Parry of Bath, with some botanic drawings which had been made some years. In happier hours, ere yet so keenly blew adversity's cold blight and bitter storms, luxuriant summer's evanescent forms and spring's soft blooms with pencil light I drew. But as the lovely family of flowers shrink from the bleakness of the northern blast, so fail from present care and sorrow past the slight botanic pencil's mimic powers. Nor will kind fancy even by memory's aid her visionary garlands now entwine. Yet while the wreaths of hope and pleasure fade, still is one flower of deathless blossom mine, that dares the lapse of time and tempest rude, the unfading amaranth of gratitude. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 66, written in a tempestuous night on the coast of Sussex, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. The night flood rakes upon the stony shore, along the rugged cliffs and chalky caves mourns the hoarse ocean, seeming to deplore all that are buried in his restless waves. Mined by corrosive tides, the hollow rock falls prone, and rushing from its turfy height, shakes the broad beach with long resounding shock. Loud thundering on the ear of sullen night, above the desolate and stormy deep, gleams the one moon, by floating mist oppressed. Yet here, while youth and health and labour sleep, alone I wander, calm, untroubled rest, nature's soft nurse deserts the high-swollen breast, and shuns the eyes that only make to weep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 67 by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sonnet 67, on passing over a dreary tract of country and near the ruins of a deserted chapel during a tempest. Swift fleet the billowy clouds along the sky, earth seems to shudder at the storm aghast, while only beings as forlorn as I court the chill horrors of the howling blast. Even round yon crumbling walls, in search of food, the ravenous owl forgoes his evening flight, and in his cave within the deepest wood the fox eludes the tempest of the night. But to my heart congenial is the gloom, which hides me from a world I wish to shun. That scene where ruin saps the mouldering tomb suits with the sadness of a wretch undone. Nor is the deepest shade, the keenest air, black as my fate, or cold as my despair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 68, written at Exmouth, Midsummer, 1795, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Fall, dews of heaven, upon my burning breast, bathe with cool drops these ever-streaming eyes. Ye gentle winds, that fan the balmy west, with the soft rippling tide of morning rise, and calm my bursting heart, as here I keep the vigil of the wretched. Now away fade the pale stars, as wavering o'er the deep, soft rosy tints announce another day, the day of middle summer. Ah, in vain, to those who mourn like me, does radiant June lead on her fragrant hours, for hopeless pain darkens with sullen clouds the sun of noon, and veiled in shadows Nature's face appears, to hearts o'erwhelmed with grief, to eyes suffused with tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 69 by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sonnet 69, written at the same place on seeing a seaman return who had been imprisoned at Rochefort. Clouds, gold and purple, o'er the western ray threw a bright veil, and catching light between, fell on the glancing sail that we had seen with soft but adverse winds throughout the day contending vainly. As the vessel nears, increasing numbers hail it from the shore. Lo, on the deck a pallid form appears, half wondering to behold himself once more approach his home. And now he can discern his cottage thatch amid surrounding trees, yet trembling, dreads lest sorrow or disease await him there, embittering his return. But all he loves are safe. With heart elate, though poor and plundered, he absolves his fate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 70, on being cautioned against walking over a headland overlooking the sea, because it was frequented by a lunatic. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Is there a solitary wretch who hies to the tall cliff with starting pace or slow, and measuring, views with wild and hollow eyes its distance from the waves that chide below? Who, as the sea-born gale with frequent sighs chills his cold bed upon the mountain turf, with hoarse, half-uttered lamentation lies, murmuring responses to the dashing surf? In moody sadness, on the giddy brink, I see him more with envy than with fear. He has no nice felicities that shrink from giant horrors, wildly wandering here. He seems, uncursed with reason, not to know the depth or the duration of his woe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 71 by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sonnet 71, written at Weymouth in winter. The chill waves whiten in the sharp north-east. Cold, cold the night blast comes with sullen sound, and black and gloomy, like my cheerless breast, frowns the dark pier, and lonely sea-view round. Yet a few months, and on the peopled strand Pleasure shall all her varied forms display, nymphs lightly tread the bright reflecting sand, and proud sails whiten all the summer bay. Then from these winds that whistle keen and bleak, music's delightful melodies shall float o'er the blue waters. But 'tis mine to seek rather some unfrequented shade, remote from sights and sounds of gaiety. I mourn all that gave me delight, never to return. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 72, To the Morning Star, written near the sea, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by Corrie Samuel. Thee, lucid arbiter 'twixt day and night, the seaman greets, as on the ocean stream reflected thy precursive friendly beam points out the long-sought haven to his sight. Watching for thee, the lover's ardent eyes turn to the eastern hills, and as above thy brilliance trembles, hails the lights that rise, to guide his footsteps to expecting love. I mark thee too, as night's dark clouds retire, and thy bright radiance glances on the sea. But never more shall thy heraldic fire speak of approaching morn with joy to me. Quenched in the gloom of death that heavenly ray, once lent to light me on my thorny way. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 73, To a Querulous Acquaintance, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by David Barnes. Thou, whom prosperity has always led o'er level paths, with moss and flowerets strewn, for whom she still prepares a downy bed with roses scattered, and to thorns unknown, wilt thou yet murmur at a misplaced leaf? Think, ere thy irritable nerves repine, how many, born with feelings keen as thine, taste all the sad vicissitudes of grief. How many steep in tears their scanty bread, or lost to reason, sorrow's victims, rave. How many know not where to lay their head, while some are driven by anguish to the grave. Think, nor impatient at a feather's weight, mar the uncommon blessings of thy fate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 74, The Winter Night, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by Corrie Samuel. Sleep, that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, forsakes me, while the chill and sullen blast, as my sad soul recalls its sorrows past, seems like a summons bidding me prepare for the last sleep of death. Murmuring, I hear the hollow wind around the ancient towers, while night and silence reign, and cold and drear the darkest gloom of middle winter lowers. But wherefore fear existence such as mine, to change for long and undisturbed repose? Ah, when this suffering being I resign, and o'er my miseries the tomb shall close, by her, whose loss in anguish I deplore, I shall be laid, and feel that loss no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 75, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org, by David Barnes. Where the wild woods and pathless forests frown, the darkling pilgrim seeks his unknown way, till on the grass he throws him weary down, to wait in broken sleep the dawn of day. through boughs just waving in the silent air, with pale capricious light the summer moon checkers his humid couch, while fancy there, that loves to wanton in the night's deep noon, calls from the mossy roots and fountain edge fair visionary nymphs that haunt the shade, or naiads rising from the whispering sedge. And mid the beauteous group his dear loved maid seems beckoning him with smiles to join the train. Then, starting from his dream, he feels his woes again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 76. To a Young Man Entering the World, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Go now, ingenious youth. The trying hour is come. The world demands that thou shouldst go to active life. There, titles, wealth, and power may all be purchased. Yet I joy to know thou wilt not pay their price. The base control of petty despots in their pedant reign already hast thou felt, and high disdain of tyrants is imprinted on thy soul. Not where mistaken glory in the field rears her red banner, be thou ever found, but against proud oppression raise the shield of patriot daring. So shalt thou renowned for the best virtues live, or that denied mayst die, as Hampden or as Sidney died. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 77. To the Insect of the Gossamer, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Small, viewless aeronaut, that by the line of gossamer suspended in mid-air float'st on a sunbeam, living atom, where ends thy breeze-guided voyage, with what design in ether dost thou launch thy form minute, mocking the eye? Alas, before the veil of denser clouds shall hide thee, the pursuit of the keen swift may end thy fairy sail. Thus on the golden thread that fancy weaves, buoyant, as hope's elusive flattery breathes, the young and visionary poet leaves life's dull realities, while sevenfold wreaths of rainbow light around his head revolve. Ah, soon at sorrow's touch the radiant dreams dissolve. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 78. Snowdrops, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Wan heralds of the sun and summer gale, that seem just fallen from infant Zephyr's wing, not now, as once, with heart revived I hail your modest buds, that for the brow of spring form the first simple garland. Now no more, escaping for a moment all my cares, shall I, with pensive, silent step explore the woods yet leafless, where to chilling airs your green and penciled blossoms trembling wave. Ah, ye soft, transient children of the ground, more fair was she, on whose untimely grave flow my unceasing tears. Their varied round the seasons go, while I through all repine, for fixed regret and hopeless grief are mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 79. To the Goddess of Botany, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Of folly weary, shrinking from the view of violence and fraud allowed to take all peace from humble life. I would forsake their haunts for ever, and, sweet nymph, with you find shelter, where my tired and tear-swollen eyes among your silent shades of soothing hue, your bells and florets of unnumbered dyes, might rest, and learn the bright varieties that from your lovely hands are fed with dew, and every veined leaf that trembling sighs in mead or woodland, or in wilds remote, or lurk with mosses in the humid caves, mantle the cliffs, on dimpling rivers float, or stream from coral rocks beneath the ocean's waves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 80, To the Invisible Moon, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Dark and concealed art thou, soft evening's queen, and melancholy's votaries that delight to watch thee, gliding through the blue serene, now vainly seek thee on the brow of night. Mild sorrow, such as hope has not forsook, may love to muse beneath thy silent reign, but I prefer from some steep rock to look on the obscure and fluctuating main, what time the martial star with lurid glare, portentous, gleams above the troubled deep, or the red comet shakes his blazing hair, or on the fire-tinged waves the lightnings leap, while thy fair beams illume another sky, and shine for beings less accursed than I. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 81 by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. He may be envied, who with tranquil breast can wander in the wild and woodland scene, when summer's glowing hands have newly dressed the shadowy forests and the copses green, who, unpursued by care, can pass his hours where bryony and woodbine fringe the trees, on thymy banks reposing, while the bees murmur their fairy tunes in praise of flowers, or on the rock with ivy clad, and fern that overhangs the osier whispering bed of some clear current, bid his wishes turn from this bad world, and by calm reason led, knows in refined retirement to possess by friendship hallowed rural happiness. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 82, To the Shade of Burns, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Mute is thy wild harp now, O bard sublime, who, amid Scotia's mountain solitude, great nature taught to build the lofty rhyme. And even beneath the daily pressure rude of labouring poverty, thy generous blood, fired with the love of freedom, not subdued wert thou by thy low fortune, but a time like this we live in, when the abject chime of echoing parasite is best approved, was not for thee. Indignantly is fled thy noble spirit, and no longer moved by all the ills o'er which thine heart has bled. Associate, worthy of the illustrious dead, enjoys with them the liberty it loved. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 83, The Sea View, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The upland shepherd, as reclined he lies on the soft turf that clothes the mountain brow, marks the bright sea line mingling with the skies, or from his course celestial sinking slow, the summer sun in purple radiance low blaze on the western waters. The wide scene magnificent and tranquil seems to spread even o'er the rustic's breast a joy serene, when, like dark plague spots by the demons shed, charged deep with death, upon the waves far seen move the war-freighted ships, and fierce and red flash their destructive fires. The mangled dead and dying victims then pollute the flood. Ah, thus man spoils heaven's glorious works with blood. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 84, To the Muse, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Wilt thou forsake me, who in life's bright May lent warmer lustre to the radiant morn, and even o'er summer scenes by tempests torn, shed with elusive light the dewy ray of pensive pleasure? Wilt thou, while the day of saddening autumn closes, as I mourn in languid, hopeless sorrow, far away bend thy soft step, and never more return? Crushed to the earth, by bitterest anguish pressed, from my faint eyes thy graceful form recedes. Thou canst not heal a heart like mine that bleeds. But, when in quiet earth that heart shall rest, haply mayest thou one sorrowing vigil keep, where pity and remembrance bend and weep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dead Beggar by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The Dead Beggar, an elegy addressed to a lady who was affected at seeing the funeral of a nameless pauper buried at the expense of the parish in the churchyard at Brighthelmstone in November 1792. Swell'st then thy feeling heart, and streams thine eye o'er the deserted being, poor and old, whom cold reluctant parish charity consigns to mingle with his kindred mould? Mourn'st thou, that here the time-worn sufferer ends those evil days, still threatening woes to come, here where the friendless feel no want of friends, where even the houseless wanderer finds a home? What though no kindred crowd in sable forth, and sigh, or seem to sigh, around his bier, though o'er his coffin with the humid earth no children drop the unavailing tear? Rather rejoice that here his sorrows cease, whom sickness, age, and poverty oppressed, where death the leveller restores to peace the wretch who living knew not where to rest. Rejoice that though an outcast spurned by fate, through penury's rugged path his race he ran, in earth's cold bosom, equalled with the great, death vindicates the insulted rights of man. Rejoice that though severe his earthly doom, and rude, and sown with thorns the way he trod, now, where unfeeling fortune cannot come, he rests upon the mercies of his God. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Female Exile, written at Brighthelmstone in November 1792, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. November's chill blast on the rough beach is howling, the surge breaks afar, and then foams to the shore.
Dark clouds o'er the sea gather, heavy and scowling, and the white cliffs re-echo the wild wintry roar. Beneath that chalk rock, a fair stranger, reclining, has found on damp seaweed a cold lonely seat. Her eyes filled with tears, and her heart with repining, she starts at the billows that burst at her feet. There, day after day, with an anxious heart heaving, she watches the waves where they mingle with air, for the sail, which, alas, all her fond hopes deceiving, may bring only tidings to add to her care. Loose stream to wild winds those fair flowing tresses, once woven with garlands of gay summer flowers. Her dress unregarded bespeaks her distresses, and beauty is blighted by grief's heavy hours. Her innocent children, unconscious of sorrow, to seek the glossed shell or the crimson weed stray. Amused with the present, they heed not to-morrow, nor think of the storm that is gathering to-day. The gilt, fairy ship, with its ribbon sail spreading, they launch on the salt pool the tide left behind. Ah, victims, for whom their sad mother is dreading the multiplied miseries that wait on mankind. To fair fortune born, she beholds them with anguish, now wanderers with her on a once hostile soil, perhaps doomed for life in chill penury to languish, or abject dependence, or soul-crushing toil. But the sea-boat, her hopes and her terrors renewing, o'er the dim grey horizon now faintly appears. She flies to the quay, dreading tidings of ruin, all breathless with haste, half expiring with fears. Poor mourner! I would that my fortune had left me the means to alleviate the woes I deplore, but like thine, my hard fate has of affluence bereft me. I can warm the cold heart of the wretched no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Occasional Address by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Occasional Address, written for the benefit of a distressed player, detained at Brighthelmstone for debt, November 1792. When in 1,000 swarms the summer o'er, the birds of passage quit our English shore, by various routes the feathered myriad moves. The becca-fica seeks Italian groves no more a wheatear, while the soaring files of sea-fowl gather round the Hebrid Isles. But if by bird-lime touched, unplumed, confined, some poor ill-fated straggler stays behind, driven from his transient perch, beneath your eaves on his unsheltered head the tempest raves, while drooping round, redoubling every pain, his mate and nestlings ask his help in vain. So we, the buskin and the sock who wear, and strut and fret our little season here, dismissed at length as fortune bids divide. Some, lucky rogues, sit down on Thames's side, others to Liffey's western banks proceed, and some, driven far afield, across the Tweed. But, pinioned here, alas, I cannot fly, the hapless, unplumed, lingering straggler I, unless the healing pity you bestow shall imp my shattered wings and let me go. Hard is his fate, whom evil stars have led to seek in scenic art precarious bread, while still, through wild vicissitudes afloat, a hero now, and now a sans-culotte, that eleemosynary bread he gains, mingling, with real distresses, mimic pains. See in our group a pale lank Falstaff there, much needs he stuffing, while young Ammon there rehearses in a garret 10 feet square, and as his soft Statira sighs consent, Roxana comes not, but a dun for rent. Here shivering Edgar, in his blanket rolled, exclaims with too much reason, "Tom's a cold!" and vainly tries his sorrows to divert, while Goneril or Regan wash his shirt. Lo, fresh from Calais, Edward, mighty king, revolves, a mutton chop upon a string, and Hotspur, plucking honour from the moon, feeds a sick infant with a pewter spoon. More blest the fisher, who undaunted braves in his small bark the impetuous winds and waves. For though he plough the sea when others sleep, he draws, like Glendower, sighs from the deep. And while the storm howls round, amidst his trouble, bright moonshine still illuminates the cobble. Pale with her fears for him, some fair Poissarde watches his nearing boat, with fond regard, smiles when she sees his little canvas handing, and clasps her dripping lover on his landing. More blest the peasant, who with nervous toil hews the rough oak, or breaks the stubborn soil. Weary indeed he sees the evening come, but then the rude yet tranquil hut, his home, receives its rustic inmate. Then are his secure repose and dear domestic bliss. The orchard's blushing fruit, the garden's store, the pendant hop that mantles round the door, are his, and while cheerful faggots burn, his lisping children hail their sire's return. But wandering players, unhouselled, unannealed, and unappointed, scour life's common field, a flying squadron, disappointments cross 'em, and the campaign concludes, perhaps, at Horsham. O, ye whose timely bounty deigns to shed compassion's balm upon my luckless head, benevolence with warm and glowing breast, and soft celestial mercy doubly blest, smile on the generous act, where means are given to aid the wretched, is to merit heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Inscription on a stone in the churchyard at Boreham in Essex, raised by the Honourable Elizabeth Ulmius, to the memory of Anne Gardner, who died at Newhall after a faithful service of 40 years. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Whate'er of praise and of regret attend the grateful servant and the humble friend, where strict integrity and worth unite to raise the lowly in their Maker's sight, are hers, whose faithful service, long approved, wept by the mistress whom through life she loved. Here ends her earthly task, in joyful trust, to share the eternal triumph of the just. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Descriptive Ode by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. A descriptive ode supposed to have been written under the ruins of Rufus's castle, among the remains of the ancient church on the Isle of Portland. Chaotic pile of barren stone that nature's hurrying hand has thrown half finished from the troubled waves, on whose rude brow the rifted tower has frowned through many a stormy hour on this drear site of tempest-beaten graves. Sure desolation loves to shroud his giant form within the cloud that hovers round thy rugged head, and as through broken vaults beneath the future storms low muttering breathe, hears the complaining voices of the dead. Here marks the fiend with eager eyes, far out at sea the fogs arise that dimly shade the beacon strand, and listens the portentous roar of sullen waves, as on the shore, monotonous, they burst, and tell the storm at hand. Northward the demon's eyes are cast, o'er yonder bare and sterile waste, where, born to hew and heave the block, man, lost in ignorance and toil, becomes associate to the soil, and his heart hardens like his native rock. On the bleak hills, with flint o'erspread, no blossoms rear the purple head, no shrub perfumes the zephyr's breath, but o'er the cold and cheerless down grim desolation seems to frown, blasting the ungrateful soil with partial death. Here the scathed trees, with leaves half dressed, shade no soft songster's secret nest, whose spring notes soothe the pensive ear, but high the croaking cormorant flies, and mews and hawks with clamorous cries tire the lone echoes of these caverns drear. Perchance among the ruins grey some widowed mourner loves to stray, marking the melancholy main where once afar she could discern o'er the white waves his sail return, who never, never now returns again. On these lone tombs by storms uptorn the hopeless wretch may lingering mourn, till from the ocean, rising red, the misty moon with lurid ray lights her, reluctant on her way, to steep in tears her solitary bed. Hence the dire spirit oft surveys the ship, that to the western bays with favouring gales pursues its course. Then calls the vapour dark that blinds the pilot, calls the felon winds that heave the billows with resistless force. Commixing with the blotted skies, high and more high the wild waves rise, till, as impetuous torrents urge, driven on yon fatal bank accurst, the vessel's massy timbers burst, and the crew sinks beneath the infuriate surge. There find the weak an early grave, while youthful strength the whelming wave repels, and labouring for the land, with shortened breath and upturned eyes, sees the rough shore above him rise, nor dreams that rapine meets him on the strand. And are there then in human form monsters more savage than the storm, who from the grasping sufferer tear the dripping weed, who dare to reap the inhuman harvest of the deep from half-drowned victims whom the tempests spare? Ah, yes, by avarice once possessed, no pity moves the rustic breast. Callous he proves, as those who haply wait till I, a pilgrim weary worn, to my own native land return, with legal toils to drag me to my fate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Verses supposed to have been written in the New Forest in early spring by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. As in the woods, where leathery lichen weaves its wintry web among the sallow leaves, which, through cold months in whirling eddies blown, decay beneath the branches once their own, from the brown shelter of their foliage sere, spring the young blooms that lead the floral year. When, waked by vernal suns, the pilewort dares expand her spotted leaves, and shining stars, and, veins empurpling all her tassels pale, bends the soft windflower in the tepid gale. Uncultured bells of azure jacinths blow, and the breeze-scenting violet lurks below. So views the wanderer with delighted eyes, reviving hopes from black despondence rise. When, blighted by adversity's chill breath, those hopes had felt a temporary death, then with gay heart he looks to future hours, when love shall dress for him the summer bowers, and, as delicious dreams enchant his mind, forgets his sorrows past, or gives them to the wind. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song from the French by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Ah, say, the fair Louisa cried, say where the abode of love is found. Pervading nature, I replied, his influence spreads the world around. When morning's arrowy beams arise, he sparkles in the enlivening ray, and blushes in the glowing skies when rosy evening fades away. The summer winds that gently blow, the flocks that bleat along the glades, the nightingale that soft and low with music fills the listening shades, the murmurs of the silver surf, all echo love's enchanting notes. From violets lurking in the turf his balmy breath through ether floats. From perfumed flowers and dewy leaves delicious scents he bids exhale. He smiles amid autumnal sheaves, and clothes with green the grassy vale. But when that throne the god assumes, where his most powerful influence lies, 'tis on Louisa's cheek he blooms, and lightens from her radiant eyes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Apostrophe to an Old Tree by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Where thy broad branches brave the bitter north, like rugged, indigent, unheeded worth, lo, vegetation's guardian hands emboss each giant limb with fronds of studded moss, that clothes the bark in many a fringed fold, begemmed with scarlet shields and cups of gold, which, to the wildest winds their webs oppose, and mock the arrowy sleet or weltering snows. But to the warmer west the woodbine fair, with tassels that perfumed the summer air, the mantling clematis, whose feathery bowers waved in festoons with nightshade's purple flowers, the silver weed, whose corded fillets wove round thy pale rind, even as deceitful love of mercenary beauty would engage the dotard fondness of decrepit age. All these, that during summer's halcyon days with their green canopies concealed thy sprays, are gone for ever, or disfigured trail their sallow relicts in the autumnal gale, or o'er thy roots in faded fragments tossed, but tell of happier hours and sweetness lost. Thus in fate's trying hour, when furious storms strip social life of pleasure's fragile forms, and awful justice, as his rightful prey, tears luxury's silk and jewelled robe away, while reads adversity her lesson stern, and fortune's minions tremble as they learn, the crowds around her gilded car that hung, bent the lithe knee and trulled the honeyed tongue, desponding fall, or fly in pale despair, and scorn alone remembers that they were. Not so integrity, unchanged he lives, in the rude armour conscious honour gives, and dares with hardy front the troubled sky, in honesty's uninjured panoply. Ne'er on prosperity's enfeebling bed, or rosy pillows he reposed his head, but given to useful arts, his ardent mind has sought the general welfare of mankind, to mitigate their ills his greatest bliss, while studying them has taught him what he is. He, while the human tempest rages worst, and the earth shudders as the thunders burst, firm as thy northern branch is rooted fast, and if he can't avert, endures the blast. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Forest Boy by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. The trees have now hid at the edge of the Hurst the spot where the ruins decay of the cottage where Will of the woodland was nursed, and lived so beloved till the moment accursed when he went from the woodland away. Among all the lads of the plough or the fold, best esteemed by the sober and good, was Will of the woodlands, and often the old would tell of his frolics, for active and bold was William, the boy of the wood. Yet gentle was he as the breath of the May, and when sick and declining was laid, the woodman his father, young William away, would go to the forest to labour all day, and perform his hard task in his stead. And when his poor father the forester died, and his mother was sad and alone, he toiled from the dawn, and at evening he hied, in storm or in snow, or whate'er might betide, to supply all her wants from the town. One neighbour they had on the heath to the west, and no other the cottage was near, but she would send Phoebe, the child she loved best, to stay with the widow, thus sad and distressed, her hours of dejection to cheer. As the buds of wild roses, the cheeks of the maid were just tinted with youth's lovely hue, her form, like the aspen, wild graces displayed, and the eyes over which her luxuriant locks strayed, as the skies of the summer were blue. Still labouring to live, yet reflecting the while, young William considered his lot. 'Twas hard, yet 'twas honest, and one tender smile from Phoebe at night overpaid every toil, and then all his fatigues were forgot. By the brook where it glides through the copse of Arbeal, when to eat his cold fare he reclined, then soft from her home his sweet Phoebe would steal, and bring him wood strawberries to finish his meal, and would sit by his side while he dined. And though when employed in the deep forest glade his days have seemed slowly to move, yet Phoebe going home through the wood walk has strayed to bid him good night, and whatever she said was more sweet than the voice of the dove. Fair hope, that the lover so fondly believes, then repeated each soul-soothing speech, and touched with illusion that often deceives the future with light, as the sun through the leaves illumines the boughs of the beech. But once more the tempests of chill winter blow, to depress and disfigure the earth, and now ere the dawn the young woodman must go to his work in the forest, half buried in snow, and at night bring home wood for the hearth. The bridge on the heath by the flood was washed down, and fast fell the sleet and the rain. The stream to a wild rapid river was grown, and long might the widow sit sighing alone, ere sweet Phoebe could see her again. At the town was a market, and now for supplies, such as needed her humble abode, young William went forth, and his mother with sighs watched long at the window, with tears in her eyes, till he turned through the fields to the road. Then darkness came on, and she heard with affright the wind every moment more high. She looked from the door, not a star lent its light, but the tempest redoubled the gloom of the night, and the rain poured in sheets from the sky. The clock in her cottage now mournfully told the hours that went heavily on. 'Twas midnight, her spirits sank hopeless and cold, and it seemed, as each blast of wind fearfully told, that long, long would her William be gone. Then heart sick and cold to her sad bed she crept, yet first made up the fire in the room, to guide his dark steps, but she listened and wept, or if for a moment forgetful she slept, soon she started, and thought he was come. 'Twas morn, and the wind with a hoarse sullen moan now seemed dying away in the wood, when the poor wretched mother, still drooping, alone, beheld at the threshold a figure unknown, in gorgeous apparel, who stood. "Your son is a soldier," abruptly cried he, "and a place in our corps has obtained. Nay, be not cast down, you perhaps may soon see your William a captain. He now sends by me the purse he already has gained." So William, entrapped 'twixt persuasion and force, is embarked for the isles of the west. But he seemed to begin with ill omens his course, and felt recollection, regret, and remorse continually weigh on his breast. With useless repentance he eagerly eyed the high coast as it faded from view, and saw the green hills on whose northernmost side was his own sylvan home, and he faltered and cried, "Adieu, ah, for ever adieu! Who now, my poor mother, thy life shall sustain, since thy son has thus left thee forlorn? Ah, canst thou forgive me, and not in the pain of this cruel desertion of William complain, and lament that he ever was born? Sweet Phoebe, if ever thy lover was dear, now forsake not the cottage of woe, but comfort my mother, and quiet her fear, and help her to dry up the vain fruitless tear that too long for my absence will flow. Yet what if my Phoebe another should wed, and lament her lost William no more?" The thought was too cruel, and anguish now sped the dart of disease. With the brave numerous dead, he has fallen on the plague-tainted shore. In the lone village churchyard, the chancel wall near, high grass now waves over the spot, where the mother of William, unable to bear his loss, who to her widowed heart was so dear, has both him and her sorrows forgot. By the brook where it winds through the wood of Arbeal, or amid the deep forest to moan, the poor wandering Phoebe will silently steal. The pain of her bosom no reason can heal, and she loves to indulge it alone. Her senses are injured, her eyes dim with tears. She sits by the river and weaves reed garlands, against her dear William appears, then breathlessly listens, and fancies she hears his step in the half-withered leaves. Ah, such are the miseries to which ye give birth, ye statesmen, ne'er dreading a scar, who from pictured saloon or the bright sculptured hearth disperse desolation and death through the earth, when ye let loose the demons of war. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode to the Poppy, written by a deceased friend, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Not for the promise of the laboured field, not for the good the yellow harvests yield, I bend at Ceres' shrine, for dull to human eyes appear the golden glories of the year. Alas, a melancholy worship's mine. I hail the goddess for her scarlet flower, thou brilliant weed, that dost so far exceed the richest gifts gay Flora can bestow. Heedless I passed thee in life's morning hour, thou comforter of woe, till sorrow taught me to confess thy power. In early days, when fancy cheats, a varied wreath I wove of laughing spring's luxuriant sweets, to deck ungrateful love, the rose or thorn my labours crowned, as Venus smiled or Venus frowned. But love and joy and all their train are flown, e'en languid hope no more is mine, and I will sing of thee alone, unless, perchance, the attributes of grief, the cypress bud and willow leaf, their pale funereal foliage blend with thine. Hail, lovely blossom, thou canst ease the wretched victims of disease, canst close those weary eyes in gentle sleep, which never open but to weep. For oh, thy potent charm can agonizing pain disarm, expel imperious memory from her seat, and bid the throbbing heart forget to beat. Soul-soothing plant, that can such blessings give, by thee the mourner bears to live, by thee the hopeless die. Oh, ever friendly to despair, might sorrow's pallid votary dare, without a crime, that remedy implore, which bids the spirit from its bondage fly, I'd court thy palliative aid no more. No more I'd sue that thou shouldst spread thy spell around my aching head, but would conjure thee to impart thy balsam for a broken heart, and by thy soft Lethean power, inestimable flower, burst these terrestrial bonds, and other regions try. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Verses written by the same lady on seeing her two sons at play. By Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Sweet age of blessed delusion, blooming boys, revel long in childhood's thoughtless joys, with light and pliant spirits, that can stoop to follow sportively the rolling hoop, to watch the sleeping top with gay delight, or mark with raptured gaze the sailing kite, or, eagerly pursuing pleasure's call, can find it centred in the bounding ball. Alas, the day will come when sports like these must lose their magic and their power to please. Too swiftly fled, the rosy hours of youth shall yield their fairy charms to mournful truth. Even now a mother's fond prophetic fear sees the dark train of human ills appear, views various fortune for each lovely child, storms for the bold, and anguish for the mild, beholds already those expressive eyes beam a sad certainty of future sighs, and dreads each suffering those dear breasts may know in their long passage through a world of woe, perchance predestined every pang to prove that treacherous friends inflict, or faithless love. For how few have found existence sweet, where grief is sure, but happiness deceit. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Verses on the death of the same lady, written in September 1794, by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corey Samuel. Like a poor ghost, the night I seek, its hollow winds repeat my sighs, the cold dews mingle on my cheek with tears that wander from mine eyes. The thorns that still my couch molest have robbed these heavy eyes of sleep, but though deprived of tranquil rest, I here at last am free to weep. 12 times the moon that rises red o'er yon tall wood of shadowy pine has filled her orb, since low was laid my Harriet, that sweet form of thine, while each sad month, as slow it passed, brought some new sorrow to deplore, some grief more poignant than the last, but thou canst calm those griefs no more. No more thy friendship soothes to rest this wearied spirit, tempest-tossed. The cares that weigh upon my breast are doubly felt since thou art lost. Bright visions of ideal grace, that the young poet's dreams inflame, were not more lovely than thy face, were not more perfect than thy frame. Wit, that no sufferings could impair, was thine, and thine those mental powers of force to chase the fiends that tear from Fancy's hands her budding flowers. O'er what, my angel friend, thou wert, dejected memory loves to mourn, regretting still that tender heart, now withering in a distant urn. But ere that wood of shadowy pine 12 times shall yon full orb behold, this sickening heart that bleeds for thine, my Harriet, may, like thine, be cold. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fragment descriptive of the miseries of war, from a poem called The Emigrants, printed in 1793, by Charlotte Turner Smith, read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. To a wild mountain, whose bare summit hides its broken eminence in clouds, whose steeps are dark with woods, where the receding rocks are worn with torrents of dissolving snow, a wretched woman, pale and breathless, flies, and, gazing round her, listens to the sound of hostile footsteps. No, they die away, nor noise remains but of the cataract or surly breeze of night that mutters low among the thickets, where she trembling seeks a temporary shelter. Clasping close to her quick-throbbing heart her sleeping child, all she could rescue of the innocent group that yesterday surrounded her, escaped almost by miracle. Fear, frantic fear, winged her weak feet. Yet, half repenting now her headlong haste, she wishes she had stayed to die with those affrighted fancy paints the lawless soldier's victims. Hark! Again the driving tempest bears the cry of death, and with deep sudden thunder the dread sound of cannon vibrates on the tremulous earth, while, bursting in the air, the murderous bomb glares o'er her mansion, where the splinters fall like scattered comets, its destructive path is marked by wreaths of flame. Then, overwhelmed beneath accumulated horror, sinks the desolate mourner. The feudal chief, whose Gothic battlements frown on the plain beneath, returning home from distant lands, alone and in disguise, gains at the fall of night his castle walls, but at the silent gate no porter sits to wait his lord's admittance. In the courts all is drear stillness. Guessing but too well the fatal truth, he shudders as he goes through the mute hall, where by the blunted light that the dim moon through painted casement lends, he sees that devastation has been there. Then, while each hideous image to his mind rises terrific, o'er a bleeding corpse stumbling he falls. Another intercepts his staggering feet. All who used with joy to meet him, all his family, lie murdered in his way. And the day dawns on a wild raving maniac, whom a fate so sudden and calamitous has robbed of reason, and who round his vacant walls screams unregarded, and reproaches heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
April
by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Corrie Samuel. Green o'er the copses Spring's soft hues are spreading. High wave the reeds in the transparent floods, the oak its sere and sallow foliage shedding. From their mossed cradles start its infant buds. Pale as the tranquil tide of summer's ocean, the willow now its slender leaf unveils, and through the sky with swiftly fleeting motion, driven by the wind, the wrack of April sails. Then, as the gust declines, the stealing showers fall fresh and noiseless, while at closing day the low sun gleams on moist and half-blown flowers that promise garlands for approaching May. Blessed are yon peasant children, simply singing, who through the new-sprung grass rejoicing rove. More blessed to whom the time fond thought is bringing of friends expected or returning love. The pensive wanderer blessed, to whom reflection points out some future views that soothe his mind. Me how unlike, whom cruel recollection but tells of comfort I shall never find. Hope, that on nature's youth is still attending, no more to me her siren song shall sing. Never to me her influence extending, shall I again enjoy the days of spring. Yet how I loved them once, these scenes remind me, when light of heart, in childhood's thoughtless mirth, I recked not that the cruel lot assigned me should make me curse the hour that gave me birth. Then, from the wild wood-banks, Aruna roving, thy thymy downs with sportive steps I sought, and nature's charms, with artless transport loving, sung, like the birds, unheeded and untaught. But now the springtide's pleasant hours returning, serve to awaken me to sharper pain, recalling scenes of agony and mourning, of baffled hope, and prayers preferred in vain. Thus shone the sun, his vernal rays displaying, thus did the woods in early verdure wave, while dire disease on all I loved was preying, and flowers seemed rising but to strew her grave. Now, mid reviving blooms, I coldly languish. Spring seems devoid of joy to me alone. Each sound of pleasure aggravates my anguish, and speaks of beauty, youth, and sweetness gone. Yet, as stern duty bids, with faint endeavour, I drag on life, contending with my woe, though conscious misery still repeats, that never my soul one pleasurable hour shall know. Lost in the tomb, when hope no more appeases the festered wounds that prompt the eternal sigh, grief, the most fatal of the heart's diseases, soon teaches, whom it fastens on, to die. The wretch undone, for pain alone existing, the abject dread of death shall sure subdue, and far from his decisive hand resisting, rejoice to bid a world like this adieu. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode to Death by Charlotte Turner Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by David Barnes. Friend of the wretched, wherefore should the eye of blank despair, whence tears have ceased to flow, be turned from thee? Ah, wherefore fears to die he who, compelled each poignant grief to know, drains to its lowest dregs the cup of woe? Would cowardice postpone thy calm embrace, to linger out long years in torturing pain? Or not prefer thee to the ills that chase him who, too much impoverished to obtain from British Themis right, implores her aid in vain. Sharp goading indigence, who would not fly, that urges toil the exhausted strength above, or shun the once fond friend's averted eye, or who to thy asylum not remove, to lose the wasting anguish of ungrateful love. Can then the wounded wretch, who must deplore what most she loved, to thy cold arms consigned, who hears the voice that soothed her soul no more, fear thee, O Death, or hug the chains that bind to joyless, cheerless life her sick, reluctant mind? O misery's cure, whoe'er in pale dismay has watched the angel form they could not save, and seen their dearest blessing torn away, may well the terrors of thy triumph brave, nor pause in fearful dread before the opening grave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.